Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 3-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins, in dramatic fashion, come back to win Game 3 and secure the series sweep. Dan, first series sweep away from home on the season, and that's a hard thing to do, Dan, unless you're the Astros against the Twins at Target Field.
Apparently. And now, they've won 4 of 5 series. They've won, 10 of 15 here. Gosh, this baseball team looks pretty good when you're playing the teams that aren't very good.
That
are there good baseball teams out there? I don't know. Who are they? Who are the other good baseball teams right now?
The next good baseball team we're probably going to see, it will be Toronto. The first weekend in June, we'll see Toronto. But until then, Dan, Detroit, Kansas City, Detroit.
Well, here's the thing. So I'm looking at the standings. So there are actually only 6 teams currently in the American League with records above 500, right? You've got the Yankees, the Rays, and the Blue Jays. The Twins are the only one in the Central. The White Sox are at 500. And then the Astros and the Angels, and then everybody else is sub 500. I mean, are those the playoff teams just like that?
I would think so, at least for the other divisions. However, in the Central, I'm still not convinced that this Twins team can make it the distance because they've struggled against those superior teams.
Well, we'll see. But you know what team is not going to be making the playoffs? The Kansas City Royals, David. They're not going. They're not going anywhere, I don't think.
Well, let's with that, Dan, jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, Dan Thompson. Twins win this one 6-4. Get off to a great start. Top of the first, they score 3 runs. And Devin Smeltzer with his second start of the season, Dan Thompson. 5 1/3. What do you know about that?
He keeps looking pretty good. His ERA is 1.74, and his reward, of course, was a demotion down to AAA. That's the Twins' way, I guess.
The Twins' way now. It's no longer a pitch to contact and hit it the other way. It's wait until a guy performs well and then send him to AAA.
Well, I think he is now out of options. That's going to be it. So he pitches pretty well, and then Griffin Jax comes in, who has turned into a pretty decent reliever here, right? He gives them at least a couple outs, a couple strikeouts, and Duffy does run into a little bit of trouble. But the Twins, again, and this was a theme of this series, scoring late in the game proves crucial.
Absolutely. So they scored 2 runs in the top of the 8th. And again, very important runs because the Twins win this one 6-4. And part of the reason why that was so important is because Pagan comes in the 9th in order to try and shut the door because Duran had pitched and then they went to Pagan, which at that point Duran had 16 pitches. And I'm kind of thinking, yeah, that's probably pushing it to get him out into the 9th. But at the same time, I'm kind of the mindset that let him get to 25 pitches. If he gets it done, great. Otherwise, bring in Pagan. But Pagan came in and he didn't look good, and it got a little bit sketchy there for a moment, Dan.
As it always seems to do with Pagan, right? But they get out of the trouble, and again, because they got those insurance runs, it didn't really matter, and they were able to hang on a couple other highlights. Kyle Garlick, he starts. It doesn't get a home run, but it's a big hit. He scores a couple runs. They're using him in such interesting ways. We're going to talk about him later. And then Jose Miranda finally knocks in a couple runs with a big hit late in the game. So he goes 2 for 4. Really encouraging to see him get a couple hits.
Yeah, and there was one other highlight, the Celestino play. Celestino is playing in left because Buxton is in center for one of the games he played in center this series, and he makes a fantastic play. Should have been a double, I think, if you had a traditional left fielder playing there. But what's so funny, for the Royals, it was Blanco's first MLB hit, and he would have just gotten a single, and he would have been fine, but he tried to push it to a double. Maybe he didn't realize there was a true center fielder playing in left field, and how quickly Celestino got to the ball, but he throws it. Polanco makes a great tag. I was kind of surprised they didn't challenge it. It was a weird slide by Blanco into second base, but what I think happened, Polanco got the tag on the left hand of Blanco, which wasn't the hand he was even reaching for the base with. So it was a really interesting play, but a great play by both Celestino and Polanco. A little bit disheartening, I'm sure, for Blanco to have your first MLB hit sort of taken away by trying to extend it to a double.
I almost thought because he held a tag on him too that maybe that was what did it, that maybe there was a gap between when one hand touched and when the other hand touched. Anything else on this game?
No, let's keep pushing here. Game 2.
Game 2, the Twins win this one more comfortably because, again, of some late runs, 9-2. They do take a 2-1 lead, but they led the whole game here, which was nice. And I love seeing them tack on 4 runs in the ninth to really put it out of reach, especially when you're on the road like this.
Yeah, Joe Ryan gets the start on this one. 5.2 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 walks, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. Again, here's the thing. He looks so good, but the one outing he had against superior competition, he got rocked. So I don't know what to think because I am definitely on the Joe Ryan bandwagon, but you need to step up when you're playing those big teams.
Is it because of his 5 wins that you're really so
Don't
impressed?
even get me started. Don't even get me started on wins. We do this every episode.
It's so
you poke
easy
the
to do
bear
because
here.
it's such a germane issue. Luis Arraez has a great game here. He's 2 for 3. He scores 3 runs. I feel like last series we were talking about a game when he scored in 4 runs in one game. Couple RBI, a couple walks. He's just been everywhere, I think, for the Twins. So nice to see him playing to the top of the lineup, playing well, playing a good first base. I say this I feel like every episode, but the top 5-6 batters of this lineup right now, when they are all actually playing, is a fantastic lineup. Buxton, Arraez, Correa, Polanco, Kepler, and Sanchez.
I think that Buxton-Correa combination is just lethal, especially when they're both on and they're both healthy. But you throw Arraez in there, he's not going to hit a home run. I mean, almost never he's going to hit a home run. But odds that he gets on base or odds that he moves the runners are so high that when you have the guys of Correa and Buxton's caliber and a guy like Arraez who's a contact hitter, good things are going to happen.
Did you see, and Corey Provus kind of jinxed it in the third game, but Arraez hadn't struck out. I think it was like 41 plate appearances in a row, which I think was the longest streak this season. Just remarkable skill to be able to see the ball. And this was against, and I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but in the third game, it was against Stalmont, who can throw 90-something miles. I mean, high 90s. I continue to be impressed with Luis Arraez.
The other note here in game 2, I thought this was interesting. In the third inning, how the Twins scored their first run. Urshela walked, Jeffers singles, then Celestino sack bunt, Buxton sack fly, which is just cool to see because you don't see that often anymore. Maybe in the 10th inning with the stupid rule with the runner on second, but today's baseball, pretty rare that you're going to see that where a guy gets on and then it sacrifices that get him around the bases.
When the bottom of your lineup produces like that, yeah, you want to have guys in scoring position for Buxton and Arraez, especially because they don't want to walk Buxton to then face Arraez and then Correa. They don't want to make it a bigger inning.
No, so in game 3, Twins win this one 7-6, again in very dramatic fashion, coming back from a 6-0 deficit. Here's the thing, folks. I have 2 TVs in my living room, and normally the big TV is the Twins and the small TV is typically, I'd say, pre or post World War II British shows, because that's what my wife watches. But on Sundays, she tends to take a nap. I tend to watch the baseball game, and if there's an F1 race, right? So there's an F1 race today, and when the Twins were down 6-0, I swapped the TVs. So I had the Twins on the small TV, and I had the F1 race on the big TV. Then I had to flip them back. Nothing makes me happier, Dan, than moving the Twins game back to the big TV.
I don't even know where to start with this. There's so much to unpack in what you just said there, David. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to start with the Formula One, which I don't think you've talked about your love of Formula One so much on the podcast before. It's kind of a niche interest here for a Minnesotan.
It is. It's a new thing. I got hooked on that Netflix series, and now I'll never look back, Dan. I used to turn my nose up at motorsports, and now I'm that guy, Dan. I wear shirts. All of my clothes that I wear to work now, I put patches from different teams and different sponsors.
They sponsor
on my
you,
shirts.
David, now?
Yeah.
And the other thing about that, hold on. So I thought you turned baseball games off after the third inning anyway. Like this one, when the Royals were up 6-0, I guess you can just relegate it to the backup TV rather than actually turn it off.
I make one comment about how if you were going to rewatch the game, you could shut it off after a certain time, and that's all I hear now is that I shut the game off as soon as it's no longer closed.
Well, I forgot that on Sundays you have both TVs at your disposal here, so I understand. I would relegate it too in that situation. You want to monitor it, right? Just not your primary focus anymore.
Yes. Anyway, Bailey Ober gets the start, comes back off the IL, gives 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. He looked pretty good. Again, it's one of those things where all season long he hasn't gotten deep into games prior to going on the IL, and I think that trend is going to continue as the season progresses.
Because of the way that they've handled pitchers coming off of the IL in the past, I was really happy to see him go 5. Unfortunately, then Yennier Cano comes in and clearly has his worst outing. He had looked so much better in his earlier outings, but the wheels really came off for him here. And obviously at the time, we're thinking, right, well, this game's over now when they gave up 5 runs in the bottom of the 6th. So I guess good that the Twins did try to manage that situation. They bring McGill in. They don't just leave Cano out there to face even more batters that he clearly couldn't get out.
No, I mean, his ERA right now is at 14.29, which is just not ideal, Dan, for a relief pitcher.
No, I think if they had any other options right now, I think they would send him down and bring somebody else back up. But here's the thing. I think they have enough competent other arms in the bullpen that they can maybe keep him around and let him stay on the major league staff and hopefully come in a less pressured situation to try to lower that ERA, get some more confidence back.
Maybe, but don't you at this point just choose somebody else from AAA and just see what happens?
Well, maybe. And we'll see what they do this week and see if they make a move.
Yeah, so a couple other notes on this one. Garlick's home run was against a righty in the 8th. I think that's important to point out. The other piece here, the home plate ump in this game. I can't wait for the ump scorecard to be released because this was terrible. Particularly Louis Arraez at bat. This was terrible. This was a huge moment in the game. Arraez comes to the plate, bases loaded, 2 outs. There is not like a single pitch in that strike zone that Arraez swings at, and the ump calls him out on strikes. And it's ridiculous. You can go on MLB.com or Baseball Savant and you can see where those pitches were. Ridiculous from the home plate umpire. And that was the whole game. Not just Arraez's bat. Like the entire game, this ump calling low stuff, strikes, it was not good.
Well, and here's the thing. The way that the Twins were able to rally back in spite of situations like that, to score 2 more and then take the lead in the top of the 9th. Also, the way that they were moving runners again, Gary Sanchez had 2 big sac flies, and there were spots even in that 8th inning when they scored so many runs. That was when one of Sanchez's sac flies was. Just doing enough, just having productive outs really kept them going in this game, and obviously it turned out they needed every run that they got. But again, how disheartening if you're the Royals here to lose a 6-run lead like that.
That has to be very heartbreaking. We're so used to being on the other end of that, Dan Thompson.
I know, and I don't think we noted this yet. This is the Twins' largest comeback since August 31st of 2018 against Texas. They believe they were down 6 runs, but they won that game 10-7. That was the most significant comeback in podcast history, David.
How about that? The other note here, Duran comes in to get the save opportunity, not Pagan, and he does shut the door. The only thing is, it's Hunter Dozier at the plate with 2 outs, and they ring him up on a check swing.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was that close, Dan. I don't think that was... I don't think that was a check swing. I think the umps were like, you know what? This game has gone on for 3.5 hours. Let's just call it.
I hate to see that happen like that, too. If it's close there, that first base ump can't ring him up like that. Let it go. It was only, I think it was a 1-2 count even. It wasn't even like it was a walk pitch or anything like that. So, yeah, I just feel bad for the Royals there. That drops them to 14-26. The Twins are 25-16. Again, big win for the Twins. They extend their lead in the AL Central now to 4.5 games over the White Sox. All right, well, let's move forward into our segments.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Well, Dan, it's that time of the episode where you get to
pour myself
me.
another beer. I think that's what I have to do in these segments. David, good on you for picking Louis Arraez. He gets you 8 points. Correa has 7 for the listeners. We double-checked our math. I'm in a distant third because Byron Buxton's 2 games were, again, not super effective. So you now extend your lead in the season series. I hate that phrase, David. Oh, man. So you're up 6-4-3. You have 6, I have 4, and the listeners have 3. Come on, listeners. Do better here. We got to catch him. We got to reel him in now.
And the listeners still lead in points. They have 63 points scored to my 44 to your 38, and yet I still have double their win total, Dan.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens this week here. This week, for the record, they're going to play the Tigers and then the Royals and the Tigers again. So a lot more AL Central teams for the Twins to hopefully beat up on.
Let's keep pushing, Dan. Beast versus Bench.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
So I'm going to go with my boy Arraez. It's hard not to. I felt bad last episode because he won me Puckett's picks and I didn't go with him for my beast. I got to rectify that this week, Dan. This is fantastic. Arraez had a great series. Game 1, he wasn't really a factor, but Game 2 and Game 3, he was a pivotal part of these victories. So I got to give it to Arraez.
Hard to argue with that, though. I'm going to go with Kyle Garlick for a couple reasons. One, in Game 3, huge home run to bring the Twins back within a run there. I think it was with 2 outs as well. That inning could have easily been over, and obviously I think if it ends there, the Twins are not going to be able to come back and win that game. So he's 1 for 4 in the game, but it is a home run against a righty, as you noted. And then in Game 1, he only had the 2 plate appearances. One of them, though, was a sac fly. The other one was another RBI hit. We've teased so much pregame, like, what is Kyle Garlick doing batting third? And then he continues to produce. Like, his batting average is .250. His OPS now is .984. That's the best on the team. I mean, who saw this out of Garlick? I mean, he is, dare we call him Garlic Mash? Like, can we use that term yet?
My name is Kyle Garlick, and I'm here to mash taters and mash lefties, and I've already mashed my taters.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, let's go to bench. Who's on your bench?
I don't know. I truly don't know. I've been looking over these stat lines. It'd be really hard for me to give it to anybody. I think I'm going to give it to Larnach, but I feel terrible about doing that. He went 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts and 2 guys left on base. The only reason why I don't want to give it to him is he was only in game 3 and it was his first game back from the IL. So it's hard to give it to him, but honestly, everybody else played a pretty decent role in these victories, other than the guy who you have on your bench. And I wanted a little bit of parity here, Dan. So who do you have on your bench?
Yeah, I went with Cano. I mean, he gave up 5 runs in a third of an inning. He just did not look great. But obviously the team bailed him out. Just a tough outing for him. Hope he can bounce back.
It was good, though, because Duffy then ended up getting the win, which we know is logical.
Much deserved win there out of Duffy.
Win. My goodness. It is something to be said, though, that I had trouble picking anybody, and you picked a relief pitcher. And anytime you can pick a relief pitcher who only had 1 outing during a series as your bench, you have to think things went pretty well for the Twins.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
Let's get you out of the way, Dan, because I got a couple things to say.
All right.
What do you got for Rocco?
I'm going to go with Rocco keeping Bailey Ober in there for 5 innings today and not pulling him early. I just thought because of the way that he has treated starting pitchers earlier coming off the injured list, I kind of talked about this earlier, but I just thought that was a smart way to handle him. And it was also encouraging to see that Bailey Ober can come back and pitch 5 innings because you just never know with guys coming off the IL whether they're going to have to go back on it. What about you, sir?
Yeah, I have to go game 3. I love that Rocco pinch hit Correa. And Correa didn't get a hit, but he registered a walk, which turned out to be important because Celestino got a hit after that, and there were 2 outs at that point. But my criticism still stands, but I'm a little bit less angry than I've been the last couple of episodes because Rocco proved to be able to break that sort of, hey, a guy has an off day, we're not going to use him rule. Now, at least for Correa. I still would have loved to see Buxton pinch hit for Celestino, but I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let my anger be released from the last couple of episodes for giving Buxton his off day, especially if you're willing to break that rule for Correa. I think once Buxton's at 100%, I hope that rule starts to come into play for Buxton as well.
Well, and here's the thing. Miranda's hitting 117. Celestino's hitting 350 in that situation. So like you can also back it up by just the fact that if you're Gilberto Celestino and you get pinch hit for in that situation, what kind of message is that saying? I mean, yes, I get you're not as good as Byron Buxton, but goodness, Celestino's played really well this season. You got to reward him and let him stay out there. I do think Correa did probably say something to Rocco and say, hey, I want to be out there. And then think of the boost that gives the team to be like, yeah we're going to try to win this game still. We're still very much in this game. Like huge for the championship culture building here that Correa is doing.
Yes, the championship culture. Dan, I think this segues well into the Minnesota moment because I have something to say about Urshela's pinch hit.
Minnesota moment.
Well, that is my Minnesota moment is Urshela's pinch hit single in the 9th inning here in game 3 to win the game for the Twins. Essentially, he hit that ball hard at the center fielder there, gets down right in front of him. To cap a comeback like that, that's got to be the moment.
Isn't it odd, though, that you pinch for Gordon, who was 2 for 4 on the day at that point?
It is a little bit, but I wonder if they saw something in the matchups. I guess I don't have a great answer for you. I just know that it worked out, that Urshela came in and did it. So, and isn't that kind of how pitch hitting works? Like, if it works, you look smart. If it doesn't, you don't look smart.
I guess it's just odd because the last thing that you referenced was pinch hitting for Miranda because of the low batting average, which is understandable. But then you pinch Urshela, who's, no better than Gordon really at this point if you're looking at their season stats.
Yeah, I wonder if they saw something in the matchups and said, maybe we want a little more of a veteran guy to face a guy who can throw 99-mile-an-hour fastballs.
I suppose, Dan Thompson.
What about you? What's yours?
Yeah, so I have to go with Garlick's home run, especially because it was against a righty and because it made that game all of a sudden seem interesting. Like, that's what triggered my movement, Dan. From
that
the
was
small
the
TV
moment
to
when
the
you...
big TV. Yes, yeah. That's what triggered it, was Garlick's home run. I'm like, okay, well, this is for real. Time to switch it back over.
Impressive. Just, again, what a team victory to be able to come back like that. And again, I keep coming back to Cano, but to bail a guy out like that is a really important thing, I think, for a young guy. And it rewards Bailey Ober for that 5 innings that he had. I mean, just the pitching staff coming together like that. But again, the Twins have been on the other side of that before. It feels like more often. And so I know the pain. It's just hard to not feel bad for the Royals.
And you'll notice that Ober wasn't rewarded with a win.
No, okay, and I thought about that too, actually. I thought about saying Ober deserved it, because he did. He was the most effective Twins pitcher.
And yet...
We're going to form that committee, David, because I'm kind of on your side here.
I knew that you would come around, Dan Thompson, to my way of doing things, because it makes more sense, because you realize the current system is ridiculous. The current win system, while statistically easy to track, makes no sense if you're trying to gauge the effectiveness of a pitcher. And in this instance, Ober definitely deserved the win, which you just said. I knew, Dan, if we keep talking about it, you'll be on the train that I'm on as well.
Well, and I was thinking, it's not like the scorekeeper gets no leeway in other aspects of the game. How often do we say, that should have been an error? That was ruled a base hit. You know what I mean? So I think we can trust the official scorekeeper to do his job well, I think, in that situation. And then baseball's already surrounded with controversy about things like this. So it's just one more talking point. Let's move here to Maurer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Maurer's musings.
David, here's a question. This has been rolling about. I don't know. First of all, how often have you paid attention to the position that a AAA Twins player is playing in a series? Because apparently we know exactly where Royce Lewis is at all points now when he's playing baseball.
It's a tweet update. Like every baseball guy on Twins Twitter is tweeting out where Royce Lewis is playing for the Saints that night.
For the record, he started at short, and then he was at third, and then he was in left, I believe, for game 3 of their series. So clearly they're moving him around, trying to make some space. So that leads up to my question. How soon do you think we're going to see Royce Lewis in a Twins uniform again?
I'm not sure. And the reason why I'm not sure is because it made no sense to send him down if you're just trying to get him prepared at those other positions. The timeline, there's no logical way to play out when you think he's going to be ready. Because as skilled a fielder as he is, how much time does a guy need if he's played shortstop his entire life to all of a sudden switch positions? That's either a long-term play or it's like a quick scramble to see if he can be ready. So for me, I guess the question is, what's the bare minimum that they think he needs to be prepared to play either third base or left field at the major league level? And I don't know what the answer is to that question.
Yeah, so I think this brings up a couple things about positionalness, because I think the shortstop is agreed that that's perhaps the most difficult position to play on the field, right? Because of the range you have to know where to throw the ball in all these situations from often crazy angles that other positions just don't need. Third base, right, is the hot corner, so you have to have quick reaction speed. But the way that fielders are used now in baseball, and at least for this season, while they can still actually shift them around the way that they should be able to, I just think maybe that doesn't quite matter as much. Like how often is it that Royce Lewis could be playing third and forget where he's supposed to throw the baseball on a given play? Other than that, I don't see the difference there, but maybe I'm naive.
I think the lack of range at third base, it's definitely less space to cover. But yeah, I don't think it'd be that much of a transition. If anything, it'd be easier for him.
I would think so too. So maybe it's just in some sense for him. I'm sure he would have said, yes, I will play third base. I don't care. But
yes,
for both parties' comfort, you don't want to put Royce in a position to play third, and then he does make an error, in some sense, and then, it maybe cost the team. I mean, you do have competent fielders to play third. I get that they want his bat in the lineup. If it's a couple weeks here and we don't see him, that's probably fine. I'd be really surprised if we didn't see him back before the end of June.
Maybe. But again, I think so much of this depends on what the Twins are actually trying to do. What are they trying to accomplish with him at AAA? Is it truly, honestly, just a quick and dirty, get used to whatever positions you can as quickly as you can? I just don't know if that's worth it. I'd rather have him just work out the kinks at the major league level, honestly, as opposed to having him try and figure it out at AAA if he's only going to be down there for a week or two trying to figure that out.
But now this is a first place team. It's not like last year when you're a last place team and you're just playing Nick Gordon everywhere. I think the stakes are a little higher.
Well, hang on. A couple of things to unpack there. Nick Gordon's caliber as a player is severely less than that of Royce Lewis. So I think
would agree with you.
There's a big difference there. And again, we're not talking about just moving him around to move him around to see where he's going to stick. We're making a calculated decision to play him at a position that the Twins know he's not going to be at long term, simply to have him in the lineup.
Sure.
So it's a little different than Nick Gordon just give him some at-bats anywhere.
Right.
It's different.
Right, because Nick Gordon's just trying to be useful on the team, and he's leaning into his versatility to be able to have a roster spot. That's not what they're trying to do with Royce.
Exactly.
What do you see? What's your musing?
I think it's interesting that the rotation is almost back to what it was at the beginning of the year. Different guys had different stints on the IL list, and now it's back to a 5-man rotation of Ryan, Archer, Gray, Ober, and Bundy, because Smeltzer got demoted to AAA and Winder went to the 10-day IL. So here's my question, Dan. When's the next time we see a different name than these 5 guys? Because we truly haven't had a 5-man rotation all season long. It has been a bit of a mess, and Rocco just kind of works with what he can. He gets 4 innings out of a guy, and then he brings in a long relief guy. But right now, I think these are the 5 names we're going to see in any given start until one of them gets injured. And once that happens, Dan, who's the next man up? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of a tricky spot they're in, because Smeltzer now is, I believe, out of options. So if they bring him back, they got to keep him on the roster. So now is it Jordan Belzovic? I mean, is he kind of the next guy to come up? He's their best pitching prospect right now at AAA.
I don't really know. I don't know what the answer to the question is. It's just interesting that we finally finally gotten back to sort of a traditional 5-man rotation, but we definitely took the long way around to get there, Dan.
Yeah, I think losing Paddock to season-ending surgery is a pretty big deal in that sense because he's one of your 5 if he's there, and so he's gone. So now they're really relying on these rookie pitchers, and with Winder going on the IL now for hopefully just a 10-day stint, maybe a 10 or 15-day stint. But it's a little worrisome because their depth is certainly not there like we thought it was or like we hoped it was be. Well, let's go and grade the series.
Series grades.
Not a lot of disagreement here, Dan Thompson.
I don't dare disagree here. It's got to be an A. It wasn't going to be an A heading into the 7th inning of Game 3, but boy, to come back like that and you win the first 2 pretty decisively, you score a lot of runs, you pitch really well. Yeah, it's not a great team you're facing, but you swept them on the road.
On the road. I don't know what else to say. It's an A, absolutely. I don't know what other grade would possibly work in this circumstance. Now, granted, I'm not one to give an A when they lose 1 out of 3 games, but I know that's something you like to do from time to time.
Easy. That depends on the competition. All right, let's keep going.
Depends.
I'm going to run away from this discussion too. Let's go to Herbie's headline.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Well, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about this. So for those of you who don't know, Dan has spent, let's say, a large portion of your adult life writing sports columns for different papers from time to time. And so Dan has a foot in this camp, I'll say. And so Dan really wanted to talk about this. I am not a big baseball reader, and so Dan mocked me prior to the episode starting because I didn't even know about this news, let alone had I thought that I read anything by this man. But Dan, I'll let you get emotional here. I'll see if I can get some backing music for you while you talk about this.
Oh, man. First of all, I think your baseball acumen would increase if you did a little bit more baseball reading here, David. The nuance, the emotions of the game, I think would really come to you a little bit more. If you read some work by Roger Angell, who died, he was 101. And I guess you don't have anything to add here for details about Roger Angell's prolific life.
In my intro, did I not give you enough leeway to say that you're going to be leading this segment?
All right. So Roger Angell, he was perhaps the greatest baseball writer of all time. And the reason that this came to me, actually, I was in college and I was in a sports writing class, and I was introduced to Roger Angell, and his style of writing is very different. So he wrote baseball columns for the New Yorker, and he was actually a fiction editor too. He took a different lens to baseball than your game story, right? So if you pick up the newspaper now and you read whatever the Star Tribune has or the Pioneer Press or even the Athletic in that sense, he had a different way of talking about baseball. There was a romance to his writing a little bit, but also incredible detail, just the things that he would notice about players. He wasn't beholden to writing game stories. He just wrote about baseball in its context, in our society, in a way that we just don't see. It's really interesting. I would urge people, if they haven't heard of Roger Angell, to read some Roger Angell. Also, you know how, David, I love Bob Gibson. I talk about Bob Gibson occasionally as a pitcher. This is where my love of that era comes from, because he wrote so much about that. And this is, the time before we were alive, right in the 60s and 70s. So I gained an appreciation for baseball history through reading him. So anyway, this is an exhortation, I would suppose, to our listeners to just say, hey, pick up a little bit of Roger Angell. It's good reading, and it really, he did a lot for baseball sports writing and really did a lot for that romance of the game that I think we all love about the sport.
Well, they always say too, right, that as far as sports writing is concerned, the smaller the ball, the better the writing. Is
absolutely.
that accurate?
Yes, absolutely, and that fits absolutely Roger Angell.
Well, Dan, thank you for bringing us a little English.
You're welcome.
Writing,
Did you tear up history at all during that little monologue?
I did. I got my box of Kleenex right
Perfect.
here. Dan.
I'll send you a book. It'll be in your Amazon cart soon, David.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, let's keep going here, Dan. Puckett's picks for the upcoming Tigers series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's picks.
Well, hey, so the listeners here are going to take Louis Arraez away from you. You can't have him now.
That's the saddest thing I've heard today, Dan.
It is.
And my kid cried earlier.
This puts me in a little bit of a predicament now, because I've been going with Buxton here for a while, and he's let me down.
What was it going to be? Dan? Should I play the Jeopardy music? What are we doing here?
No. All right. I'm going to go with Carlos Correa. I'm going to mix it up a little bit and make your choice. I'll let you have Buxton if you want him.
Yeah, I'm not going to take Buxton. To be honest, I'm at a bit of a loss.
I know who you're going to take.
You think so, huh?
I do.
Okay, well, I'm going to take my boy Max Kepler.
Oh, that's not who I thought you were going to take.
Who do you think I was going to take?
Oh, I thought you were taking Sanchez. You've been talking about Sanchez on our chat so much here. Like, I should have taken Sanchez.
I thought about it, but he has such a high percentage chance of hitting into double plays and just not scoring points that I'm going to go with Kepler. I think that he's the safer choice. I don't have a lot of confidence, though, because clearly Arraez and Correa are the two choices, and Buxton's just too much of a wild card for me right now.
Watch Buxton have a huge series now and mess with us all.
Probably. None of us picked him. Yeah.
Well, David, this was fun. We should do this again in just a couple days.
I think we will, Dan, after the Detroit series in a couple of days.
Sounds good. I'm going to send us out today.
Please do.
Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Men for the Win. You can find our Men for the Win Facebook page. You can find us on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe subscribe to any and all of those to be notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, that'd be great. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.